My name is Nicholas Wilson, also known as Mr. Ethical on Twitter. I blew the whistle on a massive fraud by HSBC Bank, and in the course of campaigning for recompense for the victims of the fraud, I came across the most extraordinary amount of corruption in Britain, in the regulators and Parliament and in every structure of the establishment. So I have set up a website called Corruption UK, which I will curate, and the idea is it's like citizens journalism, where people who have stories of corruption which is not likely to be reported in the media for various reasons. They don't, for example, report the HSBC fraud because of the control the banks have over the media. People can come to me with their story, and if it's all evidence and it properly stands up, I will publish the story. There are a few there already. I'm also going to be making a series of short films. The first of these films is about banks forging signatures and documents in court cases. The second film in the series is about the senior management and certification regime, which was brought in by the government with the idea of making senior people in the banks accountable for their misdeeds. But as you will hear, the banks have found a way around that. So one of the victims of these forged documents and bank skullduggery is Chris Richardson, businessman from Westmoreland.
That's correct.
Thanks very much for coming to Hastings today.
No problem.
This talk.
It's my pleasure.
You've lost a consequential loss of what's happened to you of up to £50 million, I understand.
That's correct. It is 50 million. That's what the cost assessment judge during litigation stated.
And that was damages that flowed from the problems you had with these, because of these forged documents that you're going to talk about.
Yes.
Could you just talk us through what happened? Because I understand when we were talking earlier, you said that you were in litigation with the bank, and then they produced these documents which helped their case. And you've never seen them before.
No, they're quite. It's quite obvious that the letters are fabricated. We've got one letter here, the 17th of March 2010. It's got, firstly, many thanks for your time yesterday. I must say how impressed I am with how the hotel is coming together. And this document goes on about funds and summarises monies to be drawn to, put their case together. But the document's just got a squiggle from our bank manager, and it's not got his full signature, so whether he signed that or
you can't tell who signed it.
You can't tell who signed it and how legitimate they are. But on another document they put in to litigation, dated the 30th of March 2010, it says, please find enclosed a copy of my letter dated the 26th of February, which I had hoped to hand deliver to yourselves, but unfortunately I have not yet had a chance to catch up with you both. So
it's contradicting
the 17th of March.
Which you never received.
Which we never received. And he's saying that we had a meeting on site at our hotel, which did not happen. And it's just, the lengths they go to fabricate documentation to assist themselves during litigation, it's just blatant corruption.
But there's an agreement there, isn't there, with they forged your signature?
Yes, they did forge our signatures. On this loan documentation dated December 2009, there's a signature which is not mine, and there's a signature of my business partner, Mr. Bernson, and they spelled his name wrong on his own signature. It's just...
so they've forged 2 signatures on that document?
Yes.
And that's to do with a loan agreement of how much?
This was for 3 odd million off the top of my head now.
I'm delighted today to be able to talk to Steve Middleton. Thanks very much for coming down to Hastings, Steve. Steve is my banking guru, and there is nothing really he doesn't know about bank fraud in the UK. He's also directly experienced banks forging customers' signatures. So could you tell us about this, Steve?
When I first joined the industry, we're talking almost 30 years ago now, when people used to sign up for investments or different products, they would sign back in those days quite a small rate card and certain other documents. And I remember when I was undertaking my training, one of the advisors had come back with certain of the documents unsigned, so the policy couldn't have proceeded. And the manager just took the documents off him and in front of the whole office basically said, well, this is one of the main things you'll need to learn to do this job properly. Walked over to a row of windows, it was an open plan office, so the whole office was watching, put the documents up against the window, put the one that had been signed up against the window and traced the signature through onto the policy card so it could proceed. And I remember the actual manager of the office walking out, seeing him doing it and standing there grinning at him. I was quite shocked, but it was surprising just how many people would undertake that to make sure they had the business and hit the targets and make sure they still got the sales to go through.
Would this mean that people didn't know that they were signing these documents?
Both. At times people might have come back and literally somebody has genuinely missed one signature in 5 documents and therefore they were proceeding with something that was intended, but with more rogue, shall we say, advisors, people were often signing up to things they didn't know about.
We've seen that it's now known to be very common for banks to forge signatures.
I work with whistleblowers who have been trained to forge signatures. So if there were documents missing, they were taught it was the right thing to do, it was in the customer's interest, but they've showed them how to trace the customer's signature, supplant that trace signature onto the document where the signature was missing. They would then run it through the photocopier 10 or 11 times, taking the density up and down, skewing the document slightly, and when it looked genuine, they would then discard their original forgery, their trace, and scan it into the system as if that document had always been there.
I'm delighted to be able to talk to Mark Wright today. Thank you, Mark, for coming all the way from North Norfolk to Hastings. Like myself, Mark is a whistleblower and has been through the mill a bit as a result. Can you tell us what it was you blew the whistle on, Mark?
Certainly, it is a pleasure to be down in Hastings and supporting you on this, Nick. I basically whistle blew a couple of things that was an issue with NatWest Royal Bank of Scotland. The first thing was that it was the systemic file fabrication and document tampering. This was actually taking place within group compliance at the time to make the file fit whatever they needed to fit, basically.
You worked at the bank.
Well, exactly. And on that basis, then in 2008, when the bank were clearly in trouble, one of the blatant market abuse by the RBS group, a gentleman by the name of Chris Sullivan stated on the group intranet, we've got a little bit of turmoil, but I just want to reassure all staff, customers and shareholders the group is very well capitalised. And at that point, the bank were already negotiating a bailout. They'd already had secret loans, and therefore it's market abuse. You can't go and tell the public and shareholders and staff all is well, there's nothing to worry about, and at the same time the bank is actually insolvent.
Well, I understand you witnessed signature forgery as well.
Yes, I have, and this is bizarre what I'm now going to tell you, because I worked in North Norfolk, in the London North East region. The commercial centre was based at Broadland Business Park, where all of the commercial managers were working. I would often pop in there. I had many colleagues in there, and I've seen staff literally tracing a signature on the window, and it's a very simple process. What makes it even more sinister and bizarre is the fact that I gave the name of the signature forgery trainer who trained all the new entrants at Broadland Business Park how to forge signatures. I gave that to Mr. Andrew Bailey when he was the CEO of the FCA, now the governor of the Bank of England, and he did nothing with it. The common joke within Broadland Business Park was all the best business was done at the photocopier. So what would happen is that if they needed, a case that's going to GRG and being destroyed, assets being stolen, if a signature was required, what would happen is that the member of staff would take the ISV, the image signature verification screen, which is effectively the specimen signature of the client. They would then take that, they would then cut it out, they would then stick it on the document that would need the signature on without the customer's knowledge. They would run it through the photocopier many, many times, changing the toner. They would put it through sometimes even copy it through the fax machine at an angle to show that it's dated. There was many, many tricks.
I'm delighted to be able to talk to Julian Watts today in Hastings. This is the second time you've been down to Hastings to see me. I recall a few years back we met in Costa Coffee and you presented a huge file, LibreArts file of documents of forged bank signatures. And that was the beginning of your campaign. Julian has founded the Bank Signature Forgery campaign, which is getting traction and a lot of support. So perhaps you could tell us about the campaign, Julian.
Yeah, well, the Bank Signature Forgery campaign is gathering evidence from members of the public of banks forging signatures and fabricating and concealing evidence in court cases against customers. Anthony Stansfeld, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Thames Valley, supports the campaign, and he is also the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners National Lead on Fraud. The All-Party Parliamentary Group on Fair Banking supports the campaign also, and the Treasury Select Committee wrote to Lynn Owens, the Director General of the National Crime Agency, asking her to investigate bank signature forgery and engage directly with the campaign. So since then, the campaign's provided Lynn Owens with over 360 crime reports and 19 files of evidence of banks forging signatures and fabricating and concealing evidence. So the campaign's asking members of the public who've been pursued for debt by any bank to take a photo of the bank signature on any bank court document, such as a claim form or particulars of claim or witness statement, etc., and send the photo to the campaign. And we're also asking members of the public who've received fabricated documents from the banks, where the bank has then used that fabricated document as evidence in court cases. We're asking them to send in a photo of that to the campaign as well. And customers can send the photos to the campaign either directly or via Parliament, and the contact details for the campaign are on the campaign's Facebook and Twitter pages.
Yes, and we'll put the details at the end of the film as well for people to contact you. Bank fraud affects everybody. If a bank puts a company into liquidation so they can asset strip them, people lose their jobs. It affects families. It affects the whole economy of a local area. If you work in a bank and you have evidence of forgery going on, contact Bank Confidential. The details will be at the end of the film. And also, if you believe the bank have forged your signature or any documents, you can contact the Bank Signature Forgery campaign, whose details will be at the end of the film. And of course, visit my website, corruptionuk.org.